Okay, we're going to kick off. I feel like the companies here need no introduction, especially amongst a room of finance operators. Ben at Equals, Michelle at Anrok, Nick at Rillet, Siki at Runway. We work very closely with all of these companies, and I think we have truly a shared mission of really kind of redefining and disrupting the incumbent landscape within our respective categories. We are all building modern products with a kind of cleaner, more flexible data infrastructure under the hood, more seamless approach to integrations, looking to do deployments in days as opposed to months, which we see kind of prevalent in the incumbent landscape. And today I really want to go much deeper with all of these companies on how they've really thought about like disrupting the incumbents in their space. Like this is not an easy thing to do, right? The incumbents have distribution, they have feature depth. Like what is it about building today that allows us to re-architect and build with a much, a superior approach to those before us? And I guess in the context of all of these products, what being AI native really means. And so, yeah, again, thrilled to be joined with really like a group of people who are totally redefining the finance stack. So let's kick off. I feel like we should maybe start with like a slightly spicy question. Feel free to introduce your companies in 30 seconds. I think probably they need no introduction, but I specifically want to hear on give me one reason the legacy version of you in your space was ripe for disruption, and as specific as you can be within your own categories. Nick, do you want to kick off?
People look at me. Awesome. I'll kick us off. Very excited to be here. Thank you, Ria, for hosting us and everybody here on the panel. I'm Nick, founder and CEO of Rillet. We're building an AI native ERP for mid-market companies. So think of us as a next generation of NetSuite. So there's a bunch of feature functionality gaps and issues with some of the legacy systems, clunky UX, UI. I could go through a long list. But if I had to distill it down truly, what I think why we've been met with so much resonance from the market and so much customer love is we care. A lot of the incumbent guard around NetSuite just developed a little bit of a style of kind of don't care. You're going to be around anyways, Mr. or Mrs. Customer. And if I had to really distill it down to like some of the inflection point, at least in our sub-vertical sort of office of the CFO, it's a matter of genuine care, genuine innovation, genuinely trying to push the industry forward versus a ARR letter somewhere in the table that will help Larry Ellison at the end of the day. So that's, I think, a little bit what it boils down to for us, and I'd love to hear from others.
Thanks, Nick. I'm Michelle, the CEO at Anrok. I started the company back in 2020, and at the time, I wasn't looking to start a sales tax and VAT business, but I'd come across Avalara, and it was the only game in town. I actually looked around for a company to invest in. I used to be in VC, and there really wasn't anything out there. And so I put a bunch of my personal money into Avalara, actually, because the rising tide raises all ships. Thank you, Vista, for that payday for taking them private. And I think we all know as finance folks what happens when a private equity firm takes a business private. So since then, we've grown tremendously. We've managed over 40 billion of customer revenue. So we're partnering with 1Password, Anthropic, Webflow, where Ivan used to work. I see a few customers in the audience. I love working with Descript and Clay. So really powering the next generation of companies out there. The two reasons that I would point to why Anrok suits a lot of modern businesses better than Avalara, number one, is that we've built a data model that understands subscription revenue, that understands the edge cases that impact software, like intangible goods. So we're more accurate out of the box from day one. The second piece is we're global. So we don't just do US sales tax, we also do global VAT. So you get 100+ countries in Anrok out of the box. No additional engineering work required. And even if you haven't registered or not even paying for those countries in Anrok, you can see it and you can monitor where your team is making sales. So that's the second big reason why we're disrupting Avalara.
And just before we come on to Ben and Siki's products, this data model point is an interesting one. Nick, I've heard you talk about this before. We certainly kind of talked a lot about it this morning, and insofar as that actually like having that flexible data schema under the hood, it makes a significant difference to the type of automation you can embed and the type of flexibility of kind of workflow configuration you can achieve within a product. Let's just like articulate on this point a little bit more. Like, what do we really mean by more flexible data model? What is specifically limiting about the incumbents' data models in your space? And maybe we'll take that a bit further and say, like, what makes it so hard to re-architect that?
Maybe just quickly, Raise your hand if you have a usage-based model in the audience. Like a little higher? Okay, so maybe like a quarter to a third. So in the tax space, it's really important that Anrok stays in sync with where you're invoicing and where you're making payments. So making sure that Anrok is in sync with Rillet invoices, for example, or Stripe, where often you're prorating down to the second or the token or whatever usage-based model that you have. And so our architecture, we're listening to all of those changes in real time. So as your invoices get updated, your tax also gets updated. And that's just not true in the retail world. You buy something once and it's a one and done transaction. So they have a committed or frozen concept, which is just a very different data model.
And for us, I think, and we'd love to hear from other folks too, but for us, as sort of the ERP layer, i.e. the underpinning data syntax, data architecture for the whole finance and accounting operation as a team, the key thing that I see is flexibility and composability of that data model by the user or through an API. So that's often a little bit of a problem with some of the legacy systems that it's just really hard to wrestle and wrangle custom fields and things like that, either as a...
Percent. Yeah, I mean, we've obviously done integrations with many of the legacy incumbents and with the company sitting here, and there is a dramatic difference there, as Nick describes. Maybe I want to, staying on this incumbent point, Ben, you obviously are not disrupting an incumbent. You are supercharging an incumbent. And I think an incumbent that is the spreadsheet that will never go away. Would love to maybe hear about your philosophy around that, like why you chose to enhance versus disrupt, and specifically how you're enhancing.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, at Equals, we are building a new spreadsheet. Replacement for Excel is how we see ourselves. And we focus today on helping people with their reporting their go-to-market, but the long-term vision of the company is, hey, we want to replace the spreadsheet for every usage in your company. The way we thought about this when we started the company was I like Jeff Bezos has this quote about focus on things that don't change. Everyone's asking, hey, what's going to change the next 10 years? And basically, let's focus on things that aren't going to change. Hey, we've had 40, 50 years of people trying to replace the spreadsheet. Maybe we give up on that and say, okay, how might the spreadsheet actually be better? And for me and my co-founder was head of finance. I was a product and growth guy. We saw there was just one really obvious gap with spreadsheets, which is they're not connected to your data. And then so you go and build some beautiful model about your business and, hey, you've got this crisp understanding of something, instantly out of date. The second you're finished, it's out of date. And to go refresh it might take you several hours going and getting data from all over the place. And so we built a spreadsheet that works the exact same as the spreadsheets you know and love today, except with live data as like the core of it. And so that was the core insight was, hey, the spreadsheet, I think my douchey product opinion on the spreadsheet is it was almost discovered more than invented. It feels like sort of a fundamentally correct way to explore and play with data. And so let's lean into that and let's work out, the ways around the spreadsheet, how it fits into your world and how that could be improved. And that's sort of the core thesis behind Equals.
Awesome. Just to I guess, take the conversation in a slightly different direction. We're obviously going to talk a lot about AI and where you guys are embedding automation into your products. One of the things we talked about this morning is it's really important to be very specific and nuanced and intentional about where and how you embed AI into financial software and where you choose to not do so and rely on kind of robust kind of calculations. Siki, I'm curious, with the world you're in, obviously with reporting and FP&A, there's a lot of places where kind of data should obviously be immutable and you don't want to risk kind of any kind of hallucinations on projections that might kind of be given or even kind of superseding data. Like where have you found good application for AI agentic workflows and where are you kind of intentionally choosing not to embed that yet?
Yeah, so for people who aren't familiar with Runway, we are a next generation FP&A platform. So the incumbents that we compete against would be something like a Adaptive or an Anaplan. The core differentiator would be if you use any of those platforms, for sure, you still are doing your modeling and forecasting on a spreadsheet. And the question we ask is why. Specific answers for that. About your question about AI. And so the way I think about AI in the context of financial modeling is it's very important to understand what LLMs can do and what it is good at and what it's not good at. And LLMs are oddly kind of like people and our brains. And if you think about what we're good at and not good at, we're good with language, and LLMs are very good at language. It's very good at understanding things. It's very good at outputting text. And what we're not good at is doing mental math 10 chains down, which is why we have spreadsheets. And so I think about it the same way. You want to give these LLMs tools to do the calculations that a human can't do in your mind, like a spreadsheet or a tool like Runway. And what you can do is you can talk to it and direct it in using natural language. You can have it output and write insights from that model. And so the analogy I have is there is a lot of hype around agents. Agents mostly don't work today, but there's an enormous amount of marketing dollars being put into that. And so I call that sort of the sort of robot Terminator model. There's another model that you can imagine for AI, and I think you think about ChatGPT or Cursor, and that is what I call the Jarvis or Iron Man suit model, where the applications of AI are actually making you smarter and faster as you're doing your work. And I'm much more bullish in the short term on the second form, and that's been our focus.
Nick, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna layer into that. I'm also like, we're building an AI native ERP, and so I always get the what does that actually mean? And I'm very proactive at sort of sharing with our customers, prospects, that a lot of the accounting processes that are being supported are highly deterministic, and they're deterministic by design. So you wanna, if you run for any accountant in the room, if you run a depreciation or a prepaid schedule down, you want the same outcome a million times in a row in 200 milliseconds without any questions. Super cheap as well to run this operation. And so a lot of the application that I think actually all of us building, we chatted a little bit before we started at the panel, I think folks may resonate, is like certain parts are highly deterministic by design, and it's very important to actually keep it like that, no matter how good the LLMs are getting in the next 2 to 3 years. And then there's certain parts of an application, like reading certain information from unstructured data in a PDF, like in our case, like summarizing financial information, comparing period over period fluctuations, going through the details there, where LLMs are showing great green shoots of success. I wouldn't even call it yet like successful outcomes end to end. And I'd be curious at sequence also what you see there. But like at least you see green shoots. And as long as you have a human in the loop there, you will have actually helped and cut down time. So it's just very important to be selective, at least, even though we tout the AI nativeness of sort of our industry, to know where to apply these models.
That resonates with me in the tax world as well. Tax is deterministic. You know the exact tax rate for a geolocation, and you don't want to call an LLM in between, which is like inefficient, compute expensive. You just want the right rate at the right time. And so what I think a lot of people miss about tax, it's actually an infrastructure problem. It's a transactional infrastructure problem, and it's a filing infrastructure problem. So we don't use AI in like tax content, for example, because it's deterministic. Sure, our team uses it to supplement research, but you don't want that to be AI native. What we do have that's AI native is product features. So to Nick's point, we also have a feature where you can upload exemption certificates. And instead of you having to manually input everything from your customer into Anrok, we can ingest all of that either via you or via your customers. We have a portal which they can upload, and the AI will automatically read everything and import that into Anrok. So that's where I think AI is really powerful in tax. It's not in the tax content. It's not in the tax calculation itself. So being really specific about, okay, when you say AI native, what does that mean?
I think, I mean, the thread here with everyone is using AI for the things AI is good at and making sure we don't have AI doing math, which it will get wrong. But what we've been building at Equals, which we're launching hopefully next month, is, I hope, an agent that actually works. And so building an agent that helps you build spreadsheets. And I think a thing that's been really kind of a starting thesis I had here, which I'm glad seems to have been proven out, is, where is AI most deployed today? It is in writing code in things like Cursor. That is where it's been most successful. Hey, it's generating text based off, patterns it's seen in the past. If you think about some of the tasks that finance teams have to do day to day, and the one that is relevant to me is building spreadsheets, writing spreadsheet formulas. And if you think of the variance in writing code, you think of a code base that is different for every single company, and that, hey, it can actually make engineers 30%, 40%, 50% more productive, even though, it's never seen this code base before. Okay, now think about spreadsheet formulas. Sum ifs, count ifs, index match. The variance is tiny. And what we have actually seen is that it is unbelievably good at building spreadsheets when directed in the right way. And there's some other companies have shown that. And so I do think there are likely coming in the next sort of 12 months agents that actually work here that take away a lot of the grunt work that we're seeing today.
And maybe to pile on to my bullishness here, the reason why AI is so good at coding tasks is that you compile code. There is a result at the end of programming of like, did your code work or not? So that's a really great training data set for LLMs. I think finance, there are some parallels. It's not as perfect as coding, but you go through an audit. What were the comments? There is a closing the loop in finance, which makes me believe in Ben's vision that in the next 12 months, as there's more training data, as LLMs get smarter, we will see really impressive results in finance.
So I guess kind of taking from that today, we see green shoots in aiding some workflows, and AI can certainly support with, speeding up these workflows in pairing with like very strong data models, but we don't see autonomous agents really running in platform yet. Am I right in saying you all believe that, at some point in the next few years, we are actually going to have autonomous agents running in the platform with no human in the loop intervention?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it will do everything that humans are capable of doing and better. That is clearly where it's going, and that's a very interesting world we're going to go. My comment is like, what is the state of the world today, right now, that you can buy? And it's not quite there yet. We've done tests where you can upload a spreadsheet, and it will basically one-shot it and completely convert it into our language. So it's getting fairly good. But if you think about autonomy, that requires like long context windows. It requires understanding of what the business does. It requires deep research. It needs access to all of your like strategy documents and project management. And a lot of that is scaffolding. A lot of that is reasoning capability and context windows and a lack of context rot. And it's not quite there yet. I wouldn't say in a few years. I think in the next like 9 to 12 months, as a newer generation models comes out and the scaffolding gets better, we will get there. Today, I can't say it's like all that useful.
How are you guys personally, as like founders, CEOs of companies where this rate of change is so high, how are you personally deciding where to make bets, and I guess how you invent and then discard and then invent again?
An underrated skill, not only for the CEO, but finance leaders, every person on the team, is how often and how willing you are to update your prior beliefs. I think it's very easy to look at capabilities of LLM in this present moment and say, it's never going to like help me build this model. But the rate of change is so fast. So if you think about GPT-2, it had an 80% accuracy counting to 10. GPT-3, which was a 100x scale up in compute, had an 80% accuracy summing 3-digit numbers. GPT-4 passed the Californian bar. Wow, that rate of change is like pretty amazing. And you might say, hey, GPT-5 wasn't that impressive. And that's because the pattern of 100x scale up compute actually didn't happen between GPT-4 and 5. So there is some misnaming in there, and that's where the pattern breaks down. Yeah. But if you believe in so far the trend of scaling up compute is following the historical rate, we will see models getting truly exponentially smarter. And so the number one thing that I'm doing is, hey, maybe LLMs couldn't do this 3 months ago, but I'm going to go and try again and test it out and just have that iterative mindset. Maybe one last thing to add, the best example is in coding. If you look at your engineers that were like skeptical 6 to 9 months ago, most of them are like saying, oh, I can really see me having gains. And the few that didn't, they're not updating their prior beliefs fast enough. And I think they'll be less valuable engineers as a result. So I do think that's a really underrated skill for anyone on a team.
And one thing I will say, I think, going back to that point about incumbents and incumbent innovation versus, some of the, let's say, newer players tackling the CFO stack. Because those gains compound so quickly and there's this kind of exponential, as you say, impact on those early investments, I think we're the divide between, what an Anrok and an Avalara can do, or between what Runway and an Anaplan can do, or, certainly Nick with Rillet and NetSuite. Maybe it's not as distinguishable today, but actually like in 12 months' time, the rate of change is so significant that that combination of flexible data model and early investments and iteration is going to really pay off. One last question I had, and then I really want to open up to the room, is, I think one of the things we all share is we will say, deployments in days, not months or years. What specifically has enabled you guys to build products that actually achieves deployment in days, not 6 to 9 months. Like, I guess partly comes back to this sort of flexibility and underlying data schema and kind of interoperability. But like, let's get really specific here, because I think a lot of people in the room would probably want to know.
The deployment part of, you don't think about deploying a spreadsheet, right? You buy Excel. But the thing that is like under sort of backs equals that makes it powerful is we basically bundle a full Snowflake and ETL setup under the hood. So you absolutely get hey, you buy equals and you've taken what is like a multi-week or month deployment of a sort of modern data stack in a couple hours. Honestly, the kind of really boring answer is the world has just like progressed, and we have, there's more products out there, and there's someone needs to come around every now and again, just stitch them together. And so Snowflake exists now. Fivetran exists for getting the data out of sources, putting it into Snowflake. And so our team went and spent the time to write the code to make it one click to connect Stripe to equals. And now all your data is available in data warehouse, and you never manage any of that. And so a lot of it's just like progression over time.
We definitely don't have a deployment in days. It's an ERP. So average time to deployment in general for space is about 6 months to 2 years, depending on complexity. We average about 6 weeks. So it is a fairly significant time investment. The way we do it is, one, we are a design and product focused company. The UX is a lot easier to understand. It is intuitive. We connect to just about everything under the sun. You can write SQL directly in Runway, and we make it really easy for you to connect your data. But you do have to build out your model in Runway, again, like most products. I do think over the next 6 to 9 months, that'll change significantly. You should be able to upload a model, and Runway should be build most of that for you. But there's also value in building a model and planning too, right? The purpose of building a model and planning is not to have the right numbers exclusively. It's also to develop a better understanding. The process of modeling and planning improves your intuition. That's why you do it. And so we built a really good experience for that specifically.
Do you use LLMs at all to aid the onboarding experience?
Not today, although we have some features in beta. Our history with AI is actually fairly long. So we were actually one of the first companies to get access to GPT-3. And we've been just trying to make it work in a useful way for FP&A for the past couple of years. And it wasn't really until O1 came out last year and O3 this year where it's actually capable of doing useful work here. And so our philosophy is, how do we accelerate the work that you're already doing? So for example, there's our tooltips in Runway today. And when you hover over anything, every number, every button, every page, it'll just explain in human language what it is. If you hover a variance, it's going to drill down for you and tell you, okay, the reason why your Runway or your cash was $1 million against plan was because you had this other dependency and it was like 50% over. So it will start doing these things. And so the way I think about a truly AI native product, ChatGPT is one of the first examples, and it wasn't because of the chat that was interesting to me. The sidebar and the chats named themselves. And that's like a really interesting design detail that was just never possible before AI. And those are the design details when you really deeply embed it into a product that makes a truly AI native product. So we think about AI expression in those terms.
For Anrok, it can vary. If you're a simple integration into an existing tool that we integrate with, it can be 1 or 2 calls. On the more complex side, let's take Notion as an example, where they have Stripe, NetSuite, and a homegrown billing system where there's engineering work, and they need international. That took 3 weeks. So it really is much, much lighter than our market standard, which I think legacy incumbents are like 6 to 12 months, depending on if you're using Avalara or Vertex.
And maybe that comes full circle to your initial point, Nick, which is that we care more and want to get it done as fast as possible.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very much a joint relationship. I'm sure you've all implemented software before, so the people really do matter. We also rely on you guys to provide information quickly and move quickly. So that's always a thing, and clear communication there. So it's a basic human needs, and then technology can help, like in terms of applications and stuff, to make it faster.
I feel like I could talk to you guys all day, but let's open up for a couple of questions. Who would like to go?
Hi, I have a question. A lot of the implementation, like when you guys are implementing really quickly and you need data, what kind of data needs to be clean? And then also a lot of for more the financial systems, it seems like I've seen a lot of times people say, oh, we want to implement your software. But wait a second, if we're going to put in new software, let's rethink our pricing and packaging strategy. And then they go, oh, hold on. okay, let's wait 3 to 6 more months. Like, how often do you see these things driven by more the customer delay the implementations? What are those?
I can answer the former, and I think the latter might be more relevant to other folks on the panel. So for us, we integrate into billing and payment systems, and our software actually takes all of the formats of these different systems into one unified format into Anrok. So we actually do a lot of that data cleaning, which is why we have such a strong partnership with a lot of accounting firms. Because accounting firms that might be providing strategic advisory, they don't have to do that grunt work on that data cleaning anymore. That's actually what our software does.
On our side, we always inherit mess, generally. Like, nobody has a good Salesforce setup. Contracts are obviously kind of generally all over the place. I guess the value proposition we're providing by taking contracts as they are and synchronizing data back between the CRM and ERP is that we're helping sort of clean up that data mess in some ways. Maybe Nick, I'll let you as an ERP player kind of comment.
ERP implementations are notorious, right? So in terms of the data cleaning and sort of remapping exercise, so we're highly encouraging of such a sort of operation. It takes a little bit longer for both parties, but it like sets you up so much for success. So I do think it's highly encouraged for everybody in the room that's considering, even though it may be daunting a little bit to go just rip the band-aid off. It's a great opportunity to do so, especially if you have people in the process that can also help you do that. They know where you're going, where you're scaling. So I think it's real. I'm highly encouraged. On your sort of tone around like delaying or timing, we face that a lot as an ERP. Like, there's never a good time to change your ERP software. It's like open heart surgery. It's like your books need to keep running. Things. I guess that's good luck.
I was going to say perfect timing on that. Like you said,
exactly
open
for
heart
everybody, for
surgery.
everybody's migrations. So I think that. There's never a good timing. So I think you just sometimes you just got to go do it. But I would encourage, and it's maybe against software vendors who want to sell their products, at the end of the day, it does need to make sense for you. And so I think you need to be honest with yourself if you have the bandwidth, the capabilities to do it. And when you do, go commit and get it done.
So I think everyone we talk to, all the customers, they're always embarrassed by their model and their data without exception, and they think they're alone. It's all a mess pretty much all the time, almost every time. And so the way I think about this is if you're already bringing that mess into some kind of model, we are agnostic. If you want to, we have the flexibility for you to clean it up inside Runway. You can write custom SQL. If you use Rillet, then it will be cleaner and it's going to be much easier. And that flexibility also affects the second question. So you're rebuilding a model and you have a new idea for pricing and packaging. That would be a big deal in a platform that assumes your business is fundamentally fixed. You build it once, but that is like not what we do. That is not how we're positioned. We are a tool for thinking. If that happens, that is great. You just change it. You have a new scenario. The models are really easy to edit and understand, and you can do it while you're building it.
Thank you. I would love to keep going, but I think we are at time. Please come and follow up with the panelists if you have any kind of follow-up questions. But yeah, genuinely so deeply impressed by everything that you guys are building and like very humbled to sit alongside you all. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for
Thanks, Ria.
putting this together.
Thank you.